Hey everyone, Buggy here. Welcome back to Baguburagu, the Bugvlog. New place, worse lighting, same awful equipment, same completely unedited, unscripted, awful rambly style. This has apparently become a place where I've decided that I'm just gonna get on and rant whenever I feel the need to rant, because I've got something else to rant about today. So, just yesterday, the results of the Crunchyroll Anime Awards were announced. Apart from Anime of the Year, of course, which is going to be announced at a later date, in about a week or two, maybe, week and a half. I don't know the exact date. But we got 13 of the 14 categories released today, and people were pretty upset about the results. Which doesn't make a lot of sense to me, considering that if you were paying any attention to any of this, you knew that that was what was going to be the result. I mean, people seem to be mad about several things. First of all, the only representative of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, one of the most beloved shows of 2016, was Yoshikage Kira for Best Villain. And he came in second in a narrow loss to the main villain of Erased. That upset a lot of people. Another thing that has upset a lot of people is the fact that Yuri on Ice took 6 of the 13 awards. And if it takes Anime of the Year, that means it will have taken exactly half of all the awards. And some people are not fond of that because they think that Yuri on Ice was not as great of a show as people seem to think it was. Which I agree with, but that's not the point. See, the reason Yuri on Ice has taken so many awards is because this was a popular vote, and people are going to be voting subjectively based on that. People liked Yuri on Ice because there was a lot of representation that you don't normally see in anime. You got characters from multiple different countries that are often not depicted in anything other than stereotypes. You got, a couple that, if it was not an actual homosexual couple, it was at least a metaphor for a homosexual couple. They were gay in spirit, even if they weren't actually gay. And, it shouldn't be a surprise that this has swept this, because it was a popular vote, and it just aired the last season. It impacted a lot of people, and, of course it's going to take that, because you have more of its fans coming in and voting. It doesn't matter whether or not it was the best, or whether it deserved these awards. It was going to be the same result anyway, just due to recency bias and due to other people's just general biases overall. And that's not a bad thing, because this was a popular vote. That is, if the populace says that's how it's going to be, that's how it's going to be. And honestly, Yoshikage Kira coming in second for Best Villain, that should actually be a surprise that he got that high, that he got that nomination in the first place, because as much as we don't like to admit it, JoJo is actually fairly niche. So, basically, Erased was a very popular show that Crunchyroll did a lot of promotion for. They had a group watch thing that they did, so more people were going to get invested in it, more people were going to watch it. Same thing with Re:Zero. I can tell you now, Anime of the Year, in my opinion, should be Shougen Roku Rakugo Shinju, because that is a fantastic show that has a lot of meaning behind it. There's a lot. It's sort of the critical darling of the year, I would say. And it would be very deserving of Anime of the Year. Let me adjust this a little bit. I'm so professional. I think that it's worthy of being Anime of the Year from a critical perspective. The thing is, a lot of people aren't voting from that perspective. So, like, I know that even though I think that that's what should win, what's going to win is going to be the popular shows, which are, you know, Re:Zero and Yuri on Ice, and potentially Erased. I think that one's maybe in the mix as well. And, like, there's nothing wrong with that, just because, I don't know, I just don't get why people are so up in arms, because these are the results we should have expected. Like, they're maybe not the right results if you're going to be all, well, objectively, this is the best one. No, it's subjective voting, and it was subjective nominations too, but I'll get to that. I want to talk briefly now about, like, the idea of anime of the year, and what exactly anime of the year means, or what any of these categories that Crunchyroll had even mean, because, like, people are voting based on that too, and we got categories that weren't particularly well defined. For example, like, what makes something anime of the year? That's the real question. Is it something that is, you know, critically good? Something like Shogun Roku Rakugo Shinju? Because, yes, that could be anime of the year. Is it something that you personally like the most? Is it, like, your favorite show? Because, yes, that could be anime of the year as well. Is it, for example, like, you know, the show that has made the biggest impact? Because that also qualifies as anime of the year. Like, I did a long podcast with my co-host, sort of in a retrospective, and he chose Re:Zero as his anime of the year because he thinks that it's had the biggest impact on fandom. It's the one that most people watched and was, you know, the highest quality of that stuff. And, like, you can't really dispute that, because even if it wasn't his personal favorite from the year, it's still, like, he was still voting under some criteria of anime of the year. You know, Yuri on Ice made a personal impact on a lot of people, so that could be, like, considered anime of the year. It just, you can't say, well, this is objectively what anime of the year means, because different people are defining that term differently. Like, other categories that they had, there was Hero of the Year, which was won by, you know, the protagonist of My Hero Academia. And, like, he's certainly a heroic character, but what exactly makes someone a hero, and what makes them, like, the best hero? Personally, I think that some of the best heroes of the year were females, which the ones that weren't in the... There was one in the running, and that was a supporting character from Cabaneri of the Iron Fortress, not the main character. So, apparently, like, hero doesn't mean protagonist. And hero tends to mean action hero, when, personally, the woman I found most heroic of the year was, you know, the main character of Orange, who is struggling against herself in order to try to change someone else's future. I think that that's a very noble, a very relatable cause, and that, you know, she's a good representative as hero of the year because of that. But she's not going to be considered for that because, you know, it's not what people think of when they think hero. You've got, you know, the best boy and best girl categories, which, how do you judge those? Like, I personally am pleased with the results of best girl, because I thought that Rem was, one, a cute character with a good design that, you know, people were able to project their fantasies onto or whatever, and so she fits that criteria. But she was also legitimately a really well-written and well-developed character, so she fits the criteria from that standpoint as well. But what exactly defines best girl in this sense? Because those are two very different definitions. Best boy, I'm even more confused about, because, like, is it, like, the boy that you most fall in love with, which is the best girl type of school of thought? Because I can't vote in that category, because I am not attracted to men in that way. So I have no idea how exactly I'm supposed to be defining that category. You get categories like, best fight scene, which you're asking people to remember one fight scene from, an entire year, multiple shows of which had multiple fight scenes. It's an issue with definition. So I think that the idea of a anime of the year or any sort of trying to objectively find these categories or making these stances, I think it's like kind of counterintuitive because everybody is going to be defining this differently. So what is anime of the year for one person may be anime of the year for another person, and they may have the same tastes, they may agree on a lot of things, but they may choose different anime of the year based on different criteria. So that's that's only further adding to this. But one other thing I do want to talk about, though, is the fact that I actually think that this thing was run pretty poorly. There was some bad planning on Crunchyroll's part from this. Now, I love Crunchyroll. I think that they are doing good work in anime and, more importantly, doing good work in the community. I think that they have fantastic staff. So I don't feel bad about saying that I think they really dropped the ball on this. Most specifically, the nominations they chose. There were 4 nominations for each category, save for Anime of the Year, for which there were 8 nominations. And they did a pretty good job of getting a varied array of shows in there. But the thing is, they chose these nominations based on submissions by 7 judges. 7 judges who were sort of industry experts, as they termed them, but the people themselves who made this wouldn't necessarily refer to themselves as industry experts, just because they, are just bloggers or, people who know some stuff. No one in the West here in the anime fandom, save for very few people, are truly experts. There are a lot of gaps in our information. There are, we don't necessarily understand how these things are made, so we don't have that background information. So having 7 people submit these entries, not only just submit them, but submit them blind. They have no idea what anyone else is submitting, and I think that was a terrible way to do a nomination process. I think that there should have been, at very least, discussion among a panel of selected judges. People who can say, well, this is why I think this, and this need to be the nominations for this. Instead, people were just submitting their favorites. They were just people whose subjective opinions were deemed a little bit higher than everyone else's subjective opinions. And since these judges were voting subjectively, I think that that's a real problem. Not subjectivity, because you're never going to have something that is truly, purely objective. But the fact that they weren't discussing with each other, well, what exactly is this, this sphere going to like? What is this sphere going to like? There was, Love Live Sunshine was one of the biggest shows to come out last year, from a lot of different perspectives. I've made my thoughts on idols clear already in my previous vlog, but it was a big show, and it probably should have been considered for at least some nomination. I'm assuming, though, that none of those 7 judges watched Love Live Sunshine, and if they did, that they didn't watch enough of it to form a real good opinion on it, or to be able to represent that really sizable fandom. And I think that's a problem, the fact that they weren't able to convene together and say, okay, what are we missing in here? So you end up with these random nominations, for ending, or for opening theme, you get Cabaneri of the Iron Fortress as one of the submissions, which there were a lot of people actively deriding Cabaneri's opening theme when it first came out. at least in my certain spheres. And what happens is you get nominations like that, but you also get some major snubs in the nominations, because there were some great openings this past year. Let me actually just quick check what these were so I'm not talking out of my ass here. Wow, this makes for great watching. You can really tell why I don't edit this. This is thrilling stuff. Okay, so I've got this pulled up now. You had Kabaneri of the Iron Fortress. You had Mob Psycho 100, which was a very well-received opening. You had Shogun Roku Rakugo Shinju, which was, I love the show, but I'll admit, I don't even really remember the opening that well. I know it had a pretty good song, but I don't remember the opening being, the best one out there. Then you had Yuri on Ice, which is another solid pick. So you've got two very solid picks, but at the same time, you've got these two that maybe don't quite belong, that if there had been a bit more discussion, people would have said, well, let's consider maybe these instead. They weren't my favorites, but they were really up there. Let's consider these. I think that, Great Days from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure was a snub. That's, one of my favorite openings. I loved the song. I thought the visuals worked really well. But then you've also got Keys Niver's Lay Your Hands on Me, which a lot of people thought was the best part of the show, by hands down. Whatever your opinions were on Keys Niver, because it was a very divisive show, nobody can really argue that it had an absolutely stellar opening theme. And people completely forgot about that in the nominations, apparently. Or the nominees that they, or the people doing the nominations, it just slipped under their radar, or they personally didn't like it, and that didn't get represented. Which is a real shame, because when you're only given 4 options to vote on, that means that the onus of remembering these things that should have gotten nominations are on you. You have to write them in. And not everybody is going to think to write these in. I submitted Great Days as a write-in vote before remembering, oh shit, Keys Niver's theme was this year. I completely forgot about that. I should have voted for that instead. And I think that that's the problem when you have something like this. You have limited nominations, and you have no one discussing what these nominations should be. You're just taking from a pool of people who are not discussing these things. And I think that that is a real drop ball. And I'm really kind of upset that Crunchyroll handled the nomination process this poorly, just because I do like the idea of these anime awards, even if they're just for fun. And Crunchyroll is probably the best platform for launching something like this. Something for Western fandom's equivalent of the Academy Awards for anime. Because Crunchyroll has the biggest platform to do this from. They pull in the most viewers. It's not, a niche community. Pretty much everyone at this point uses Crunchyroll. Not everyone, but a large portion. You get a lot of, casual viewers using Crunchyroll, because stuff like Naruto, One Piece, Dragon Ball Z are still constantly at the top of most popular. But you also have, the more niche fans who are no, you need to support the industry. Crunchyroll is doing good work here. You need to support Crunchyroll. People who, are examining anime more seriously and taking it more seriously as a medium and not just a pastime, they're also using Crunchyroll. So you've got, a much bigger pool of people to draw from. So I think that if anyone can launch this, it would be Crunchyroll. The thing is, they handled the process so poorly this time that I don't know how it's going to be received in future years. So I guess those are my thoughts. One, stop being whiny, crying piss babies about the things that you didn't about the things that didn't win that you wanted to win not winning. I'm sorry, I cannot speak. I'm horribly poorly spoken. Stop being whiny crying piss babies about, the things you wanted to win not winning. 2, everyone has their own definition of anime of the year, and you can't take that definition away from them. 3, Crunchyroll probably should have handled this whole awards process a little bit better. Those are the 3 things I want you to take away from this video, I guess. So, yeah, this is Buggy. Until next time, I am signing off.